Welcome back to WestNPeace. I am locked. This is day 21, July 24th of the Bible in a year. Let me get my depth perception blockers on, or adapters. July 24th is generosity. There is need everywhere we look. Families who need homes, missionaries who need support, food shelves that need donations, and nonprofit organizations that need finances. But how can we even begin to meet those needs? How could we possibly give enough to make a difference? Generosity can be scary. Giving might mean that we will have to do without. Giving costs us something. We think that we have to have less in order to do more. But in God's economy, he who gives generously will be repaid lavishly. He who holds nothing back will inherit everything. Give freely and become more wealthy. Be stingy and lose everything. The generous will prosper. Those who refresh others will themselves be refreshed. Proverbs 11:24-25. God will provide for your every need, no matter how much you give to others. He doesn't measure wealth the way we do. He doesn't operate on our economic system. He gives with rewards that will last forever and wealth that will never run out. So give freely and get back more. Our readings for today are Genesis 39 and 40, Job 31 and 32, and Proverbs 33 through 35. Yesterday we read Genesis 38, Job 29 and 30, and Proverbs 3, 28 to 32. And here we go with our Genesis reading, starting with Genesis 39. One moment. Coffee. Now Joseph was taken down to Egypt. This is Joseph and Potiphar's wife. Now Joseph was taken down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had brought him down there. The Lord was with Joseph, and he became a successful man, and he was in the house of his master the Egyptian. And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord caused all that he did to prosper in his hands. So Joseph found favor in his sight and attended him, and he made him overseer of his house and put him in charge of all that he had. From the time that he had made him overseer in his house and over all that he had, the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. The blessings of the Lord was upon all that he had, in house and field. So he left all that he had in Joseph's charge, and having him, he had no concern for anything but the food which he ate. Now Joseph was handsome and good-looking. After a time, his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph and said, "Lie with me." But he refused and said to his master's wife, "Behold, having me, my master has no concern about anything in the house, and he has put everything that he has in my hand. He is not greater in this house than I am, nor has he kept back anything from me except yourself, because you are his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?" And although she spoke to Joseph day after day, he would not listen to her, or to lie with her, or to be with her. But one day when he went into the house to do his work, and none of the men of the house was there in the house, she caught him by his garment, saying, "Lie with me." But he left his garment in her hand and fled, and got out of the house. And when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and had fled out of the house, she called to the men of her household and said to them, "See, he has brought among us a Hebrew to insult us. He came in to me to lie with me, and I cried out with a loud voice. And when he heard that I lifted up my voice and cried, he left his garment with me and fled and got out of the house." Then she laid up his garment by her until his master came home. And she told him the same story, saying, "The Hebrew servant whom you have brought among us came into me to insult me. But as soon as I lifted up my voice and cried, he left his garment with me and fled out of the house. When his master heard the words which his wife spoke to him, "This is the way your servant treated me," his anger was kindled, and Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined, and he was there in prison. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy, and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's care all of the prisoners who were in the prison, and whatever was done there, he was the doer of it. The keeper of the prison paid no heed to anything that was in Joseph's care, because the Lord was with him, and whatever he did, the Lord made it prosper. Genesis 40, the dreams of two prisoners. Sometime after this, the butler of the king of Egypt and his baker offended their lord the king of Egypt. And Pharaoh was angry with his two officers, and chief butler and chief baker, and he put them in custody in the house of the captain of the guard, in the prison where Joseph was confined. The captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he waited on them, and they continued for some time in custody. And one night they both dreamed, the butler and the baker, of the king of Egypt, who were confined in the prison, each in his own dream, and each dream with its own meaning. When Joseph came to them in the morning and saw them, they were troubled. So he asked Pharaoh's officers who were with him in custody in his master's house, "Why are your faces downcast today?" They said to him, "We have had dreams, and there is no one to interpret them." And Joseph said to him, "Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell them to me, I beg you." So the chief butler told his dream to Joseph and said to him, "In my dream there was a vine before me, and on the vine there were 3 branches. As soon as it budded, its blossoms shot forth, and the clusters ripened into grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand." Then Joseph said to him, "This is its interpretation. The 3 branches are 3 days. Within 3 days Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your office, and you shall place Pharaoh's cup in his hands as formerly when you were his brother. But remember me when it is well with you, and do me the kindness, I beg you, to make mention of me to Pharaoh, and so to get me out of this house. For I was indeed stolen out of the land of the Hebrews, and here I also have done nothing that they should put me into the dungeon." When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was favorable, he said to Joseph, "I also had a dream. There were 3 cake baskets on my head, and in the uppermost basket were all sorts of baked food for Pharaoh, but the birds were eating it out of the basket on my head." And Joseph answered, "This is its interpretation. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Within 3 days Pharaoh will lift up your head from you and hang you on a tree, and the birds will eat the flesh from you." Pharaoh's hand. Wait, what? "And the birds will eat the flesh from you." On the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, he made a feast for all his servants, and lifted up the head of the chief butler and the head of the chief baker among his servants. He restored the chief butler to his butlership, and he placed the cup in Pharaoh's hands. But he hanged the chief baker, as Joseph had interpreted to him. Yet the chief butler did not remember Joseph, but forgot him. That's our Genesis readings for the day. We're moving on to Job 31 and 32. Job 31. Job asserts his integrity. "I have made a covenant with my eyes. How then could I look upon a virgin? What would be my portion from God above, and my heritage from the Almighty on high? Does not calamity befall the unrighteous, and disasters the workers of iniquity? Does he not see my ways and number all my steps? If I have walked with falsehood, and my foot has hastened to deceit, let me be weighed in a just balance, and let God know my integrity. If my step has turned aside from the way, and my heart has gone after my eyes, and if any spot has clung to my hands, then let me sow, and another eat, and let what grows for me be rooted out. If my heart has been enticed to a woman, and I have lain in wait at my neighbor's door, then let my wife grind for another, and let others bow down upon her. For that would be a heinous crime. That would be an iniquity to be punished by the judges. For that would be a fire which consumes unto Abaddon, and it would burn to the root all my increase. If I have rejected the cause of my manservant or my maidservant when they brought a complaint against me, what then shall I do when God rises up, when he makes inquiry that I shall answer him? Did not he who made me in the womb make him? And did not one fashion us in the womb? If I have withheld anything that the poor desired, or have caused the eyes of the widow to fail, or have eaten my morsel alone, and the fatherless has not eaten of it, for from his youth I reared him as a father, and from his mother's womb I guided him. If I have seen anyone perish for lack of clothing, or a poor man without covering, if his loins have not blessed me, and if he was not warmed with the fleece of my sheep, if I have raised my hand against the fatherless, because I saw help in the gate, then let my shoulder blade fall from my shoulder, and let my arm be broken from its socket. For I was in terror of calamity from God, and I could not have faced his majesty. If I have made gold my trust, or called fine gold my confidence, if I have rejoiced because my wealth was great, or because my hand had gotten much, if I have looked at the sun when it shone, or the moon moving in splendor, and my heart has been secretly enticed, and my mouth has kissed my hand, this would also be iniquity to be punished by the judges, for I should have been false to God above. If I have rejoiced at the ruin of him that hated me, or exulted when evil overtook him, if I have not let my mouth sin by asking for his life with a curse, if the men of my tent have not said, who is there that has not been filled with his meat, the sojourner who has not lodged in the street, I have opened my doors to the wayfarer. If I have concealed my transgressions from men, by hiding my iniquity in my bosom, because I stood in great fear of the multitude, and of the contempt of families terrified me, so that I kept silence and did not go out of doors. Oh, that I had one to hear me. Here is my signature, let the Almighty answer me. Oh, that I had the indictment written by my adversary. Surely I would carry it on my shoulder. I would bind it on me as a crown. I would give him an account of all my steps. Like a prince I would approach him. If my land has cried out against me, and its furrows have wept together, if I have eaten its yield without payment, and caused the death of its owners, let thorns grow instead of wheat, and foul weeds instead of barley. The words of Job are ended. Young Elihu rebukes Job's friends. So these three men ceased to answer Job because he was righteous in his own eyes. Then Elihu, the son of Barachel, the Buzite of the family of Ram, became angry. He was angry at Job because he justified himself rather than God. He was angry also at Job's three friends because they had found no answer, although they had declared Job to be in the wrong. Now Elihu had waited to speak to Job because they were older than he. And when Elihu saw that there was no answer in the mouths of these three men, he became angry. And Elihu, the son of Barachel, the Buzite, answered, I am young in years, and you are aged. Therefore I was timid and afraid to declare my opinion to you. I said, let days speak, and let many years teach wisdom. But it is the spirit in a man, the breath of the Almighty, that makes him understand. It is not the old that are wise, nor the aged that understand what is right. Therefore I say, listen to me, let me also declare my opinion. Behold, I waited for your words, I listened for your wise sayings, while you searched out what to say. I gave you my attention, and behold, there was none that confuted Job, or that answered his words among you. Beware lest you say, we have found wisdom. God may vanquish him, not man. He has not directed his words against me, and I will not answer him with your speeches. They are discomfited, they answer no more. They have not a word to say. And shall I wait because they do not speak? Because they stand there and answer no more? I will give my answer. I will also declare my opinion, for I am full of words. The spirit within me constrains me. Behold, my heart is like wine that has no vent. Like new wineskins, it is ready to burst. If I must speak that I may find relief. I must open my lips and answer. I will not show partiality to any person or use flattery toward any man, for I do not know how to flatter, else would my Maker soon put an end to me. That's our Job reading for the day. Now we're going to read Proverbs 3, exhortation to be wise and to honor God, verses 33 through 35. This is the end of the chapter. The Lord's curse is on the house of the wicked, but he blesses the abode of the righteous. Toward the scorners he is scornful, but to the humble he shows favor. The wise will inherit honor, but fools get disgrace. Okay. Bible in a Year Companion, Volume 1, Days 1 through 20. 120. We're going to reflect on the Word, take it to prayer, and dive deeper. The Old Testament, Joseph has many parallels with the New Testament, Joseph. The first of which is that he is a righteous man. Joseph in the Old Testament consistently chooses to walk with the Lord. He has been betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused and imprisoned. Through it all, the Bible tells us that the Lord is with him. We can take consolation in this because God is also with us in every situation. Sometimes we only recognize the Lord's presence in our lives when things are going the way we want them to go, but he is with us even in times of brokenness. Job finds himself in a terrible situation that isn't his fault, but he chooses to live not like a victim, but a victor, because he knows the Lord is with him. Job also shows us that while we live righteously and do everything right, it can feel like God is not with us, but we can take comfort in the fact that God will never leave us. As Catholics, if you're Catholic, we have the fullness of revelation. We have these Old Testament stories to show us God's faithfulness, but we also have the revelation of Jesus in the New Testament. In the New Testament, God declares the very person of Jesus that we can count on him and that he will fight for us. Take it to prayer. God in heaven, we thank you. We thank you for your word. We thank you for revealing your heart to us. We thank you for heroes, people who are faithful like our friend Job. We thank you for heroes, people who are faithful like Joseph. Help us be the kind of men and women who know your name and who know your commands and have the ability and the grace, the perseverance and persistence, the confidence and trust in you to do your will in all things. We make this prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Dive deeper. Are the things in your life that aren't going the way you want them to go? Are there things in your life that aren't going the way you want them to go? If so, pray about how the Lord has been with you and continues to be with you, even when life is difficult. So concludes our readings for the day. Tomorrow we will be reading from Genesis 41 and 42, Job 33 and 34, and Proverbs 4, 1 through 9. Thank you for joining this day of Bible in a Year. And don't forget to press the like button if you like the content. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. I see about 63% of you are not subscribed, but that's okay. It's just, I'm here if you need me. I'll see y'all tomorrow. I'm locked out.